Welcome to Suburban Warrior, the podcast that will impact, inspire, and empower you to transform your mindset and become the badass warrior that you are. I'm your host and fellow warrior, Crissy Pfeiffer, former clinician and corporate marketing exec turned multi-passionate entrepreneur, performance and life coach, and mom to 4 not-so-little warriors. Each week, I will bring you honest conversations with inspiring guests to share their stories of resilience, optimism, success, and simple yet effective strategies so that you transform your thoughts and change your behavior to get the results you want in your life. You will be empowered to take action, warrior up, and believe in you. Let's do this. What's up, warriors? Welcome back to another episode of Suburban Warrior Podcast. I'm your host, Crissy Pfeiffer, and I want to thank you all for tuning in and listening again today, because this episode is going to be well worth it. And that's kind of on words, because with me today, I have Nicole Rule from Greatest Worth. And Nicole is a money coach, but she also says she is a recovering budget avoider and target run addict, which I mean, who isn't at this point? But her goal is to make you love your life, starting with your money, which I absolutely love that. So welcome, Nicole.
Thank you, Crissy. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Yes, I'm excited for you to be here as well, because I think in just normal times, we all could use some tips and strategies for better budgeting, really creating a budget. You know, I know some people, may not even have family budgets or personal budgets. It's like, while money is like what drives us all, it kind of is also something that I feel like a lot of people don't think about. I think the only time people think about money is when they don't have it.
Correct.
Right? So, which is not how it should be, right? We should be ahead of it and thinking. So, and especially now, obviously we're in very unprecedented times when people are unfortunately out of a job and really looking to figure out maybe how to work with what they have or how to budget more so in the future. So why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Well, I will say that all of those things are true. I was totally a money avoider. I was the money avoider in my family, in my husband and I. And so it's almost been a whole decade now, which is crazy to think about, but it was about a decade ago. I had my second baby and really got down to being like, I don't want to go back to work right now. Like, I want to be able to stay home with the kids. And my husband was like, you can't, like, we don't have the money for that. Like, we can't afford that. We had $100,000 in just student loan debt between the two of us. And then, some random credit card debt here and there, and even like a medical debt. So I was like, I'm going to figure this out. And so I was like, well, I'm going to calculate. And I did not calculate. This was not my thing, but I was like, I'm going to calculate how many hours I have to go back to work a week in order to like stay home with my kids some. And basically I figured out like I had to go back 40 hours a week. There were no options. And that's when I got to the point where I was like, started to realize that like money is a part of everything. So we think that it just has to do with being able to buy things, but it was a part of my freedom, right? Like it was 100% holding me back from making this choice that I wanted to make in my life. And we were just like victims of it instead of using the money in a way that could support us and help us to like make these dreams basically come true. So that kind of started the whole thing. And we went on this debt payoff journey and we paid off all $100,000 in debt. Took us a little over 2 years to do that. And we actually went kind of crazy, and it's not necessarily what I would suggest for people. We went really intensely into it. But so anyway, after that, people, started asking questions and were like, how did you do that? Can you teach me how to do that? And so over the past 6 years or so, I have kind of done that, helped people with that. And then in the past 3 years, I was like, I want to make a business out of this. I think this message is really important. I don't, there's a lot of money people out there who are like, it's all about the numbers. It's just about numbers. And to me, I knew that money was more about like living a life that you wanted to be living, like creating values for yourself and having a vision for yourself, and then aligning your money with that value and creating money goals that support those values and vision. So it was much more holistic to me. And that message, I didn't hear that very much in the money world. So that's where Greatest Worth came from.
That's amazing. And I think, well, first of all, let's touch on the fact that you paid off, what is it, $100,000 in a little over 2 years and 26 months. That's pretty incredible. So I want to hear a little bit more about how you did that. And that makes sense that that's sort of where the Greatest Worth journey started, because that's incredible. And what I also love, and just hearing you talk, it sounds like, what you really figured out is that, yes, maybe, when you're looking at money, of course, it's a numbers game, but it's so much more than that, because it's really about mindset and about how you think about money, what you want to spend your money on, your visions, your dreams, how money is going to, make all of that happen for you. So I love that, really, while you work with money and helping people figure out their money, you're really working with their mindset as well and how they view money as a whole. So, okay. So the $100,000 in a little over 2 years, what was that? What was the secret there?
It was honestly crazy. It wasn't a big secret. Like my husband and I were both physical therapists at the time. So we did have a job that allowed us to pick up more hours. Or what happened is I ended up getting 3 different jobs and then figuring out how to work on the days of weeks that I wanted. So I got like a weekend job, and they pay you more on the weekend. So it was just maximizing, my time to make as much money as possible, to put all that extra money on the debt. So part of it was just working a lot. I mean, it was probably 50, 60-hour weeks, a lot of work. And then we would work different schedules. So my husband would be home with the kids, and then I would be home with the kids. And then we hired a nanny like 3 days a week is all we needed childcare for, because we were on different schedules. So it's really just kind of thinking outside of the box, being really creative with schedules and work, and like, how can you maximize every little bit that you had. And like I said, though, we went really intense, and I don't know that I would necessarily recommend that. I mean, I think it could be something you can be like, okay, for 4 months or 6 months, we're going to go really intense. But we did it for 26 months, and it was crazy, and we never saw each other. And I remember crying a lot, and it was really emotional. But also, as I look back on it, I know that work and that journey is part of what created this process, right? It's part of what led me to think like, this isn't just numbers. Like, this is bigger. This is my life. What do I want to be doing for my life? Like, I don't want to spend my time working. It's not fulfilling to me. So like, how do I want to spend my time? Because time is really the currency that, of our life that we should be paying attention to. And money can give you the freedom to allow you to pay more attention to your time, if that makes any sense. But
oh my gosh,
kind of like really thinking about it in such a different way and being creative. So that's really all we did, and budgeted really strictly, right? Like, you have to know where every single penny is going so that you can take all the extra and put it on the debt.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense, because, I mean, the most important thing is time, our own time, right? Yeah. And you can't get any more time. You can make more money, but you're never going to get more time.
Right.
So for the environment that we're in right now, where, people probably even more so than ever, who may be out of a job or not have income coming in right now, but have something, what are some things, like when I say have something, I mean like have some savings going on. What are some things that they can do right now that might help to maximize what they have?
Yeah. So I actually just created a course on this, which we were talking about earlier, called the Emergency Budget Blueprint. And I'll give you the link to all that and everything, because we did end up creating it and we were going to charge for it. And then we were like, let's make this like, we're still charging for it, but it's available to anyone at any budget, because we wanted, information is so good in there and it's totally our holistic view. So it's just a different way of relating to money. So, but basically I'm going to walk through that course and give you the kind of items that I think people should be focusing on right now, which is basically creating an emergency budget, which just means like whether or not you've had a budget in place, you can do these steps. Okay. It's not like you already had to have a budget and you already have to know about money. It's like step one is literally just awareness. Like you have to start paying attention, even if you weren't before. It's fine. No guilt, no shame. But you have to start paying attention now, because like you said, when you have less income, or if you lose a job or something traumatic happens, and now here you are stuck in this emergency or this crisis that we all are in right now.
Right.
It's time to start being aware. And if you can start just tracking all of your expenses, or even go back a month and try and, go to your checking account or your credit cards, whatever you use, and look at your statement and see where all of your money is going, that is going to help you move forward like in so much easier than just trying to build a budget, not knowing where your money is going in the first place. So that's what I tell people to start with.
Well, yeah. And that makes so much sense, because awareness, I mean, when you think about just how much money you spend without really thinking about it, whether it's you're online and you're just shopping, or you're on Amazon and you're clicking, or if you're walking into Target, right? Mm-hmm. Target, how many of us just like literally go into Target for a couple things? And like I know in your bio, you said you're a Target run addict.
It's like the most beautiful place on the planet. Like everything beautiful is in there.
And somehow you need all of it. Mm-hmm. And it all ends up in your cart as you're leaving. I mean, I think everyone has had the experience where you go into Target to spend $20 and you walk out spending $200.
Yeah.
But that's exactly, I could see why just literally, being a little bit more intentional and creating that awareness with what you're spending and looking back at what you have spent could really help future spending.
Yeah. And it's easier now, right? Because you're really we can't spend money. Like you can't go into Target really. So before, one of the tips I was giving people was like, use the drive up. That's how I shop at Target, unless I need to go look at like the home furnishing desks, right? I don't go into Target. I literally use the drive up on the app and they bring it out to my car. So I still buy things from Target, but I'm not going into the store and spending an extra $100. But now that doesn't even necessarily, like everyone's using the drive up. If you need Target, everyone's.
Right.
So it's actually more helpful because we are becoming more aware already, because I'm sure people have noticed, like, even though this is an emergency and it's crazy, I bet people are noticing like, oh, I actually have more money, like, because they're not going out to eat or they're not doing anything mindlessly anymore. They're just, everything is very mindful. You're being very mindful when you go out to spend money now, because you can't really go out. That's what I'm finding. So I think it's just an easier time to do it, is all I'm trying to say. So it's like the perfect opportunity to really pay attention.
Absolutely. Okay. So awareness is step one.
Yes.
Or the first thing to do. What else?
Yeah.
What do they do next?
The next step that I tell people is often to stop any money goal that you had going on. So if you're in the middle of an emergency, you want to stop everything else. So whether you were trying to pay off debt or you were like funding your retirement, that might even be something you need to stop right now. It all kind of depends. And we walk you through this in the course, because you kind of need to know like what kind of emergency you're in. Are you at the place where like you literally don't have enough income coming in and you can't sustain, your monthly bills? Well, probably you need to not be putting money into retirement, because that's like a step beyond paying for your monthly bills. Like you got to be able to pay for your monthly bills and then add to retirement. So it's things like that, just kind of stopping all of that extra stuff, all of those goals you had, and putting any extra money, if you do have some, just into savings. That's what I tell people, because we just don't know. Everything's so unknown and uncertain. It'll help you to know that you have a savings account that's liquid that you can get at, versus these 401ks that we can't get at, or you can, but it's going to like have all these penalties and fees and all of that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think whether or not you need to dip into that savings account that is liquid, just having it there and for a peace of mind is huge, because, we don't know how long this is going to last for. And that's exactly it. We don't know how long this is going to last for. So just having something that mentally is a peace of mind, I think is huge.
Yes, so huge. So that's why I tell people to do that for now. And then at the end of this, which is, what if it's a year from now? And a year from now, you have this giant pile of money sitting in a savings account. You can put it on your debt, or you can do whatever you are wanting to do. But once you know you've kind of made it through, that's when you take that money and do something with it.
Right. That makes sense. Okay. All right.
Okay. Next step. So this is part of the awareness. What I tell people is you want to like actually write down all of your expenses. You want to know how much income you are bringing in each month. And you want to know whatever your assets are. And when I say assets, that can mean like your house as an asset. But I'm just saying, what kind of liquid money do you have? So savings accounts, money markets, stocks that are easily sold and liquidated, things like that. Like, what do you have available to you that you can, pull from if you need to in this emergency? Just kind of taking stock of everything. That's the awareness part. And then the next part is you want to identify what your needs are versus what your wants are, because this gets confused. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big one.
Yeah. So how do we break it down in the course? We talk about the fundamental four. So the fundamental four are your needs for sure, right? So that's food, that's your housing, that's utilities, and that's transportation. Those are the things that honestly in our modern culture, most cultures, you can't really live without. You just can't. So those are the four things that are for sure your needs. And those might be more than 4 bills, right? Like utilities could be phone and water and trash and all the things. And so you list all those out in a needs column. And then you might have very clear things that are wants. So wants would be like a vacation to the beach. Like that's a want. Things, trying to think what else. Even,
home wine delivery.
Correct.
There's a want.
Yes. Making sure you're looking at all your subscriptions, which is an important reason to like go back and look at your actual account statements, because we forget about those. Those are all automatic and they just come out of our checking or whatever. And we forget that we have like subscriptions every month. Looking at those, even, I might upset some people here, but even like for us recently, we're like, a gym membership is it's like a bonus, and health is so important to both of us, but we're finding like, well, we're working out at home now. We're still keeping up the same level of fitness, honestly, that we had been. I'm still training for a half marathon. Like all these things are still happening. And a gym membership doesn't necessarily, it's not a need. I thought it might've been a need. I don't think it's a need anymore for us. So you're just going through everything and categorizing it, needs versus wants. And we did, when we were doing this process, we realized there's like a middle column. So like Netflix. You're like,
There's like the non-negotiable ones.
You're like, that might be a need right now. Like,
right. I would say Netflix is pretty much a need right now.
Yeah. So we stuck those in the middle and we called them, what did we call them? Mostly needs.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. And then what happens is you start to create a budget based on those 3 columns. Okay. So you're going to have like your income at the top of the paper, and you're going to subtract all of your needs from it. And you're going to have a new value. So if you started with $5,000 income and you subtract $3,000, those are all your needs. So now you have $2,000 to play with, right? And so then you start to subtract your mostly needs, or whatever mostly needs you want. And then you get down to $1,000, and then you have your wants list, and you only have $1,000 for your wants list. So do you want to use that, or do you want to save that $1,000? It's all about starting to figure out and like decide what's valuable to you. And there's parts of the course where we walk people through the visioning and the values process of greatest worth. So it's a much bigger picture than I'm only giving you the money actions today.
Right. Sure.
But yeah, it's really literally just, creating a lifeboat for your life right now. You're just, what's going to get me through this emergency? And, likely professional salon haircuts and eyelash extensions are not necessary, right, in this emergency. That can be something that you get excited about in the future, but
right.
You're not taking those in your lifeboat. That's what I kind of tell people.
I don't think we can take them in our lifeboat even if we wanted to.
That's true. You can't get them right now.
You can't get them.
It's true.
Unless someone's got a really posh lifeboat. I know true. They're not coming in my boat right now, even though I need them. I mean, my highlights are awful.
I know.
But I get your point though. And I love that idea of a lifeboat, because even after we can access some of those things, the question will be, what can you live without, and what could be put on the back burner until you have more money or the income to be able to, purchase those things again.
Yeah. And this time, right? This time of quiet and like just kind of being home, stuck at home, however you want to look at it, has been a time of like real reflection for us to be like, you know what, like a lot of these things that we thought were so necessary in our life are not necessary. And it's been a time of like simplifying and minimizing for us that has felt really good and clarifying. And so actually, I think this time is the perfect time to do this work of creating a budget for yourself, or this emergency budget, whatever people want to do at this time. But the timing is so perfect, because it's not allowing you to bring in the drama, because you can't be like, but I want salon haircuts. Well, like you can't have them right now anyway. So like,
right.
There's no drama involved right now.
Yeah. And it is a time when, yes, you can spend your days shopping online, but what is it that you really need to spend your money on right now? Yeah. And so I think, I agree that this is the time to start rethinking, and I not only rethinking, but I love, that you mentioned in the course, you're really talking about the visioning and the values, and like not just about the hardcore numbers, because you can look at numbers all day. May not be just about that. It's really about your actual relationship with money.
Yeah.
And probably what I would assume, just from taking, coaching tactics and putting them into every aspect of life, your relationship with money, and maybe how you were exposed to money as a kid, and, how your family viewed money growing up, and how that translates to how you view money now.
Yes.
And all of those things, like actually just taking the time just to think about it. Because when you really think about it, I think you'll discover, why you have the view of money that you do personally. Yeah. I think that's I think it's an interesting exercise for a lot of people to do, just to really, go back and really understand what is your relationship with money.
Yeah.
So are you viewing it from a sense of scarcity or abundance?
Yes, exactly. That's actually my whole first step, not of the course, but just of the greatest worth process, is all about mindset. And I call it your money story. So like how you grew up and how you're relating to money. Yeah. That's totally important. And so I make people do that first when they're coaching with me. I'm like, we need to like dig into all this stuff before we even create a budget. So we don't even get really into the numbers. I kind of will have them doing like awareness stuff in the background, but it's all this underneath unearthing work that we have to do first. I just think it's so important. So even in this course that we created for people, like each module has a movement piece. So being a physical therapist, I know how important like movement is to your mind and your soul. And so I had a friend who's a fitness instructor, and she did these 10-minute videos that are just basically getting your blood flowing. So you do that first. And then there's this whole like journaling workbook. So one of them's all about finding your values, and one of them's about like, what's your biggest fear in this time? So it's just like really getting people to dig into these questions, because when we leave them and we don't address them, it's when there's no clarity and we just continue to stay afraid. That's what happens.
Yeah.
You can't go anywhere.
Absolutely. And so your workshop, or it's an e-course, is called the Emergency Budget Blueprint.
That's
and
right.
Yep. And that's, what we've been talking about and what you're offering now. And, I think it's really a wonderful thing that you're doing by saying, it's not necessarily a free course, but it's not necessarily a paid course either, because what Nicole's doing is you are basically saying, pay what feels good.
Mm-hmm.
And, while you're a small business owner and this is, really how you are feeding your family and your kids, you also understand that there are a lot of other families and a lot of other people that have lost an income or that may be struggling. And so you created this course as a paid course, but now with everything going on, you're offering it in a pay what feels good kind of way, which is, I think, sounds very new and interesting. It's the first I've heard of anyone doing that, but I think it's really awesome and honorable that you're doing that, because, if people can pay, that's wonderful. But for those who can't, that, really your goal is just to get this information in their hands.
Yes, exactly. I just think it's so crucial right now, and such a perfect time for people, that I really just wanted people to have the information no matter what they could pay. And it felt to my husband and I, who helped me create the course, like it felt like a way for us to continue to pay it forward. So I've told this story before on another podcast, I think, but real quick, I had this friend, and this was like when we were in our 20s, and I was uninsured. We were totally broke, and I got appendicitis, and I went and had the surgery, but came out with like a $25,000 bill, right? Because I didn't have any insurance. And we were like babies, newly married, no money at all, working for like nonprofits. So my friend from college, who was really good with money, he just sent us $1,000, and he was like, this is not a loan. I just want you to have this, and when you're able to pay it forward. And I just started crying. It just felt like the most beautiful thing in the world to be so generous. And that was another reason, honestly, eventually, that I was like, this is why I want to have money too. Like, why I want to be good with my money, so that I can share it with others. So this felt like we've actually paid that $1,000 forward many times since then, but this felt like another way that we could just continue that beautiful gift that he gave us like 20 years ago.
Oh, that is so special. And that, it speaks volumes that, like you said, it was 20 years ago, but just that, it was a very generous yet simple act of kindness that someone did for you, that, here you are 20 years later, still recalling that story, still paying it forward, probably 10 times, 20 times, however many times over.
Yeah.
And that is the most beautiful thing about, just giving someone a gift, no matter how big or how small. It could even be just a gift of gratitude by saying, thank you. You've meant so much to me, or you've done so much for me in my life. But paying it forward it's just beautiful. So that's an awesome story. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, sure. The ripple effects are really big, for things like that. It just continues to go and go and go.
Yep, it sure does, for years and years and years. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing some of the details about the emergency budget blueprint. So where can people find this e-course and sign up for it?
Okay. So you can go to my website, which is greatestworth.com. And then it's /EBB for Emergency Budget Blueprint. That's all kinds of information. So if you're wondering, you have questions, you probably get some of your questions answered there. And then I have a podcast too called Your Greatest Worth. You can find that on the website as well. Facebook group, all the things, Instagram. Yeah. So, but the course is, you can just find it through that link, is really the place to look for it right now.
Awesome. And your podcast is also Your Greatest Worth.
That's right.
And your Instagram is
Greatest Worth. Everything is Greatest Worth. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
great.
Easy to find. Yeah.
Well, that's great, Nicole. Thank you so much for sharing your strategies with us today, and for, everything you're doing with Greatest Worth. I think, now really more so than ever, people, everyone, like you said, we really are all in this together.
Yeah.
And I think stopping right now to take some time to look at your budget, create a budget, start digging out of debt as much as possible. This is the time.
Yeah, it is. Thank you for letting me be here, Crissy. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm grateful to have you. And thank you guys all for listening to a Suburban Warrior podcast. And if you love this episode, please leave a rating and review. And you can find me on Suburban Warrior on Instagram, and join our Facebook group, Suburban Warrior. It's a great community where you can share tips and inspire others. So join us on Facebook, and we will see you next time.